Hello, welcome back to Blender CC Live Noding. In this episode, I want to share this Node 3 setup. Basically, it's pretty simple setup utilizing just the split instance and procedural texture that comes with geometry nodes. So let me explain what's happening. I have this checker texture, procedural checker texture inside geometry nodes, and this texture is part of the procedural texture that you have here. And checker textures only have two color, white and black, and we can scale the texture, and this texture value can be passed into the shader using these custom nodes. I call it blah, so I just pass it into the material, and I'm using the texture to split this grid that's made up of this vertices number. We can make it as many as we want. The higher we use the number, the more accurate the split's gonna be. So it's splitting the face based on the group ID that comes from the checker texture. And after I do that, I just instance it on the points, enable pick instance, so it's picking the instance, and then I can specify X number of points and just randomize it. So I get this kind of interesting, like grid, kind of like illusions. If you know Twitter poster Akiyoshi Kitaoka, I think the professor likes to deal with this kind of thing, like making like more pattern or something. Anyway, yeah, it's just black and white in this case, but I have another example here. So instead of just splitting with two value, I'm using the split to instance with the group ID, but instead of just black and white, I'm using the value that's higher than 0 and 1, so it's multiple value. It's become the group ID, so I'm splitting it more. In this example, I'm actually extruding it. So what's happening here? So the grid is being split based on the procedural texture that we have here. I'm using the wave texture. I can set it to X, Y, or diagonal, whatever we want. We can also set it to ring set to Z, and then all sort of things. And yeah, I just use solidify. And as for the mesh, I'm using instance and mesh line to split the, we get the split instance, and then we are instancing it into a points of mesh. So that's why we get this. So it's kind of like a topology of a surface using just wave texture. Originally, remember, we just used checker texture. Checker texture is like normally just two color. If we use something like magic texture is slightly different. Usually it's like a dots, we get this kind of aliens topologies. If we use noise texture, we get something else altogether. I think the noise texture we might need to normalize. Oh, actually it's already normalized. Anyway, you have to really play around with the value and just to get the height that we want. I think noise is between minus 0.5 and 0.5, and then we just remap it into this value, so we get the full control. That's sort of the idea. We get this kind of interesting topology where it's just basically grid mesh that has been split using texture, and then we just stagger it, offset it in height, and based on that, and then we also transfer the color. Remember the color attributes coming in, and then I use color ramp to get this gradient rainbow color. So each each layer of different value that we use from texture, procedural texture, get it passed into the 3D objects. Kind of wondering actually what's going on if you use different surface or different 3D mesh. At the moment I'm just using grid, and I can set it to 200 by 200. I can go higher, it's more accurate. Ideally maybe I want the shapes to be just flat mesh, or just maybe even just the curved edge, and then I think that's can be handy for, you know, like if you have like a surface and you just want to have this kind of variations happening. So wave, texture, Voronoi, even Voronoi, so you get a Voronoi pattern. I think Voronoi might be between 0 and 1, I don't know. 1 minimum and maximum. Play around with this number, see if you can get a full range without the instance being repeated. So we have 9 variations. Okay, there's the Voronoi splitting the surface. That's the grid. I don't know, I haven't tried with others. UV sphere, what happened if I plug it in? Oh, should be kind of obvious what it's doing. Yeah, okay, the push, the instance is happening in the z-axis, so it's not in our case of, in the case of sphere, we really actually want to maybe scale instances. I don't know, stagger it in the scale or something. Anyhow, I guess you got the idea. So back to the grid. So grid, Voronoi texture, try all the texture here. Image texture will work as well, so try your own portrait or something, as you know, use this image to split the layers of the mesh. Brick texture, the obvious one. With the bricks, you get bricks, which is just normally just 2 color. You get something that's looking pretty complex. Anyhow, the simple one like magic texture is totally fine. You see how we remap the value. So if the remap is not totally correct, you get the repeat. But if it's like a full range without it being repeating, you get a nice gradient. Yeah, it's simple, still kind of neat to be able to do this. There's another way to do this, but once you understand the idea, you can just reuse the same idea differently. So distortion, yeah, it's giving a nice abstract looking thing. Alright, so that's pretty much what I want to show you. Hopefully you find this useful. Oh yeah, by the way, if you want to solidify, make sure you realize instances. Without this, it's just gonna be flat. Realize instances, it's become real mesh, so you can extrude it here. And I don't know, maybe you can remesh. Oh, you lost the color after you remesh. You need to retransfer the color. Anyhow, that's the process. Hopefully you find this useful. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.